The worst symptom was that I was just chronically and sometimes very acutely suicidal, and the voice was always there in my head. It was just a matter of whether it was a whisper or whether it was a shout. And there were days that it was so bad that I literally spent the entire day just sitting on my hands, making sure that I didn't kill myself. I, for almost 20 years, had very severe Ptsd. And I want to tell you a little bit about I guess it's called the old story now, so that you can understand how I got there. I grew up in an abusive household. My mother was a very sick woman. When I was 4, I think in a moment of postpartum psychosis, she tried to drown me in a bathtub. She tried to kill me. And the abuse just kept coming, just kept escalating from there. It was pretty persistent. Verbal abuse. At one point, she did kidnap 2 children. When my stepdad got into the picture, sexual abuse was started. And because my stepdad was a police officer, we couldn't really do anything about it. We couldn't really go anywhere, my sister and I. And so at about 15, I started developing symptoms of PTSD. I didn't realize that that's what it was at the time, but I was getting panic attacks, nightmares, dissociation, avoidance, all the things. And I went on like that, thinking that that was normal, until about age 24, when I started working with veterans. And I was at a conference about PTSD, and they were explaining what the difference is between living with PTSD and living a normal life. And I was like, oh, that's me. And I went to a psychiatrist, and they diagnosed me. And they didn't say anything about recovery when I was diagnosed. They just said, you have PTSD, here's your, here's some medicine. We'll try to reduce your symptoms. And then from there, things just seemed to get worse. My symptoms escalated. At one point, my panic attacks were so bad that they would, panic attacks are usually very short. They'll come in and peak at about 20 minutes, drop off from there, but I was getting them just one after another for hours a day. And out of curiosity, I took notice of how long they were lasting. And at the worst, I was having panic attacks for 30 hours a week. So I was basically having a full-time job panicking, which not a great job. I was having nightmares all the time, and probably the worst symptom was that I was just chronically and sometimes very acutely suicidal, and the voice was always there in my head. It was just a matter of whether it was a whisper or whether it was a shout. And there were days that it was so bad that I literally spent the entire day just sitting on my hands, making sure that I didn't kill myself. And I tried everything, literally everything. I took all the pills that they gave me, all the SSRIs and SNRIs and all the off-label drugs. And I went to all the psychiatrists and the therapists and did the cognitive behavioral therapy and EMDR and IFS, and I did all the diets. I did not try the triple filtered water, I'm realizing, so that might be my problem. But I tried all the diets. At one point, I exercised for 6 hours a day, thinking I could just exercise all of my pain. That didn't really work. I tried psilocybin. I tried ketamine therapy. Nothing really worked. And I was so deeply, deeply frustrated and so angry. And I was out with a friend. I guess this is sort of the turning point, but I was out with a friend, and we had been drinking, and I was so mad, and I just looked at him and I said, you know what, I don't even frickin' want to heal. And I realized as soon as I said that was the truth, and that the through line for all of the things that I had tried was the reason that it didn't work was because I didn't want it to work. And I had left this abusive past, and my parents had stopped abusing me, but I had continued. And so that sank in for a while. And I got Dr. Joe's book. I got Becoming Supernatural, and I read it, and I started doing the exercises from the book. I didn't have the meditations or anything. I was just trying to put my attention different places, at the grocery store, at the doctor's office. I don't know if I was doing it right, but clearly something worked, because all of a sudden, for about a week, my symptoms just completely vanished. I didn't have that voice in my head telling me to go kill myself. And that week, I bought the intensive progressive course, and I started watching it, and it took me a really long time to get through the videos because I just kept watching one video after another and would repeat them just over and over again. And then when I got to the meditation, I thought that was the only meditation in the course, so I did that meditation all the time. It took me a really long time to get to the progressive part of the course because I didn't realize that there were more meditations. And it just felt really good. I felt so whole and loved when I did that, so I just kept doing the meditation, and then my symptoms disappeared for a whole month. And then they came back. And when they came back, they were really, really bad. And I had about a month and a half of just utter anguish. And I remember there was this period where I was lying on the couch, and I really thought that this was, okay, I've tried everything, and this is it. Clearly, nothing has worked. And I was lying there, and I just had this screaming voice in my head to go kill myself, and I could see exactly how that was going to happen. And there was this little voice in my head that was just like, you know what, no. And then a few days later, everything was gone. All my symptoms were gone. And that was March of last year, and I have not had a single suicidal thought. Thank you.
Now, you can't tell me in the elevator, you can't tell me that your past was too brutal that you can't change. You can't tell me that now. There's the 4-minute mile right in front of you. There's someone who broke through a level of consciousness or unconsciousness. Having the memory and the experience of your mother trying to murder you is not just a function of the conscious mind. A child who's 4 years old, the door between worlds is wide open, and that's embedded in the body subconsciously. The body is in terror. Night terrors are just the side effect of the body being confused by love. Being abused by a stepfather who's a police officer and being abused on a regular basis. Mother with psychosis. There's a lot of confusion going on in that body, and it's very difficult to lose control. Very difficult for a person to not really be able to at least predict something in their life. Keep predicting the worst case scenario in your future based on your past. Do that enough times and the body will be in a state of panic all the time. Yeah, she practiced and she noticed a change in her body. It was favorable for her body. But it wasn't favorable enough to completely remove the past. And the hardest part of every war is the last battle. I'm telling you, it's the way it is. Body clings to the past one more time because that's all it knows. The body is the unconscious mind. It does what it's programmed to do. Getting to the point where you're at the end of your belief, there's nothing left, and all the voices in your head are attacking you to tell you to give up or take your life or whatever it is. And just going one more time is telling the body it's no longer the mind. And so many people in this work, when this happens, think they're doing their meditation wrong. They think, what's wrong with me? I'm doing it wrong. And they're doing it right because every single person that has had an abuse just goes through the same exact thing. They feel so horrible that they want to give up, and there's a little tiny voice in their head that says, go again, live again, create again, do it again. And it's that very thing that frees the body from the past. She doesn't belong to her past any longer, neither does her body. She overcame the emotion. Of course, it's wisdom now for her. Master your emotions, master your creations. She belongs to the future. She no longer belongs to the past. And it's not a problem for her to forgive. It's just not a problem because she's not feeling those emotions any longer. That's when the body is free. Thank you so much for telling the truth. Skylark.
Thank you.
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? You can't tell me your past was too brutal. Can't tell me that any longer. That's not an easy one to overcome, and yet if she did it, you can do it as well. And if your past isn't half as difficult as that, then all of us have no excuse.